Good evening, good evening, good evening. This is Dorielle. This is time number 3. This is the power of story, and I am here even though I am not in my usual spot, nor is it is my usual day. I wanted to come to you because I was able to snag a portion of the day of this amazing, amazing person whom you should know. Welcome. I see you coming in. As soon as you come in, excellent. Good evening. As soon as you come in, do me a favor and share this video. This is another version of The Power of Story, where I, Dorielle Inez Larrier of Learn to Grow You, Larry's Education and Resource Network, takes a portion of my day, a portion of my week, to tap into the power of story that other people tell and have you hear about it. So tonight, thank you so much. Tonight, I have connected with this amazing man whose name is Troy Johnson, and he is of AALBC. Yay! See, he's wearing his shirt. So we're going to be a little silly, but we're going to be a lot serious. So let's get kind of like the serious. Thank you for sharing the video. See that? Okay, we don't know what just happened. I'm so sorry. But we thank you for hanging out with us. So we're trying to figure out the Wi-Fi. Just work with us here, okay? So you know I'm always kind of silly. But on a serious note, I just reached out to Troy because I've actually followed him and his website, which is the African American Literary Book Club. I met him at the Harlem Book Fair about, 15 to 16 years ago. Yeah. It's been a minute. And then I followed his website. So if you do not know of AALBC.com, please bookmark it. And it's going to be an extremely, extremely important resource for you. It was a resource for me when my children were going through school. And I think the last time I really utilized it was just about 2 years ago. My son came home with a list of, y'all know because I ranted about this. They gave me a list of, or gave him a list of the classics that he needed to choose from. Remember this? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so, y'all, look at my glasses, right? You know, when I look over my glasses, I am miffed. There was no, and I mean no, person of African ancestry, either from the States, the Caribbean, or the continent, who was listed on that list of classics. And I went to see the teacher. You know I did. And I said, excuse me, where'd you go to school? How come there are no people of African ancestry? She's like, well, this is like what we know as the classics. And I said, okay. So I reached out and I said, listen, I need a list of like 10 to 20 books or titles, authors, whoever, that would be considered classics. And Troy, with probably in like a half an hour or so, he popped back and he was like, hey, boom, 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 boom. And I was like, yes, I knew my team was going to show up and show out. So I just took a chance and I was like, hello, would you like to be interviewed? I'd love to like chat with you and let a whole lot of people know. Hey, Al, let a whole lot of people know what, who you are and what you do, because I really think he's being underserved or underused, right? Utilize his resources, work his brain. So let's let Troy talk for a moment. And I'm going to ask a question, and you guys make sure that you can make sure you type in any questions or comments that you want. But the topic of today is who tells our story, or how does our story get told? So my first question to him is, why did we even need AALBC? Go.
Okay, so why do we need AALBC? I started AALBC in 1997, in October of 1997, and I officially launched the website in March of 1998. And I've been running the website for over 20 years now, and it's been my livelihood for the last 10. And I started the website as an experiment. I was really just interested in learning how to make money on the web, and I picked books almost arbitrarily, but they were a commodity. I figured I could sell them pretty easily. But as soon as I started the website, I realized that there was a whole world of literature out there that I just simply wasn't familiar with. And it probably was because I was educated the way your son was, not being exposed to the wide variety, really the wealth of stories that we had already been told. So I was really excited about using my platform to share those stories with others. So I started the website, It's grown to become a massive platform for books and authors. The entire website is curated. My database has about 11,000 books spanning a period, from Phyllis Wheatley's book to books that haven't even been published yet. There are roughly 3,500 different authors on the website. You'll find reviews of their books.
Okay, pause. Did you say 3,500?
Yeah, 3,500 individual authors.
And these are authors of the African diaspora or Latino, Asian? Like, who's in there?
Okay, so as the name might suggest, it started out with African American authors.
Okay.
But as the site has grown and I've learned and discovered more authors, the site includes authors from Africa and indeed from the entire African diaspora. So you'll find authors from the Caribbean, you'll find authors from all over the continent of Africa, you'll find authors from North America, South America. So it's really growing. And
but they're all melanated folk.
They're all melanated folk. There are actually a few exceptions. So the website So the website again is an attempt to highlight books written by or about people of African descent. And, one of the authors that are on the site is Jack Ezra Keats, who wrote the book A Snowy Day.
Oh, okay.
And
he's the exception.
He's the type of exception.
Right, okay.
You'll find authors like Paulo Coelho. So there are some authors that were important to me, and I was excited about sharing them. So they made their way on the website. So with A Snowy Day, that was the first book I remember reading over 50 years ago and just being amazed by this little black boy in my neighborhood, literally in my neighborhood. And I just remember being struck by that image because I was reading Dick and Jane at the time. And, blonde-haired kids
we all were.
in the suburbs.
We didn't know any different.
And it was an alien world. I might as well have been reading science fiction.
Right.
So when I saw this little boy, I forget his name now, Peter.
Yeah. Right. So A Snowy Day. What's the other one? So, as a matter of fact, if you remember any books by Ezra Jack Keats, type them in. But there's something chair. Oh, geez, I'm gonna look this up.
Willie's Whistle for Willie.
Whistle for Willie. Right? Come on, you guys. Listen, give me some hearts. Give me some engagement. I need some thumbs up. Yeah. Share this video because you know that you want to be able to share this information with other people. And remember, AALBC. See that?
So if you go to AALBC and just search for Jack Ezra Keats, you'll see the books, all of the books.
Search for AALBC, and then you'll be able to find everything. So, in essence, this is like a digital library.
Sure, yep. So who else do I have on the site but there are authors from all over the planet that are on the website, and many books that are out of print. So again, the entire site is curated. So the books, most big book websites, they have every book that's currently in print. So I have my list of books are books that I individually added. So it's not just a arbitrary feed of books. It is a list of books that I've personally selected to add to the site. And the book doesn't have to be in print. So I have books. I'll add an author that hasn't written a book in 100 years if I feel that the author's work is important. So that's how I share the literature. And in today's environment where you have print on demand, many of the books that have been out of print are in print. So
Okay. So let's just say I was looking for Phyllis Wheatley's work. Now, those of you who know Phyllis Wheatley, you already know what I'm about to say. So she was the first female or black person that was published poet. But this was like 18.
Oh, yeah. See, all right. So 1700s, right? Yeah.
Okay, so 1700s. So that's deep. So that means you have her name on the site, you have her work on the site, but would her work be accessible? Is her work still accessible?
Yeah, I'm sure there's someone. So there are compilations that include her work. Again, I'm not looking at the site now, so I can't tell you exactly who published the book. But I do know I work with publishers that are known for publishing important but obscure works that it's a great thing that they're keeping these works in print. So, for example, I work with a company called Black Classic Press. They're a publishing house that is, again, they have kept important books in print. Books by people like Dr. John Henry Clark or Dr. Ben.
I own that.
They actually are publishing all of Carter G. Woodson's books. So Carter G. Woodson, if you visit his page on my site, you'll find all of his books. You'll find a bio. You'll find a wide variety of information. But most importantly, you'll find the books that his organization has partnered with Black Classic Press in particular, specifically to make his books available. So they are the official publisher of Carter G. Woodson's books.
That's it.
Asala. That is my man's site. That is Dante Lee's site.
That says Black Classic Press. That's what.
Man, no, that's not it. That's another guy. I just happen to know that guy.
Okay,
who
look,
runs the
Black
site.
Classic Press.
Yeah, so that is that happened to have been that's the site. So that happened.
Okay.
That was a press release that Black PR sent out.
Okay.
So that is their logo,
Okay.
and these are some of the titles that I was talking about.
Okay, so here's another link, Black Classic Press, which I will link in the description when we finish. So it'll be in the, I guess, in the caption. But mainly you want to go to AALBC. So let's move on to the next question. So the next question, the question that we're really focusing on is, again, who tells our story? So one of the things that Troy and I talked about before we came on is, with the age of the internet, how does that original story get told? How does it get told? Because a lot of people are downloading books. They are sourcing content from YouTube or from Instagram or something like that. So I asked him, I was like, hey, are people even reading books anymore? So we talked about that a little bit. So how does your site, AALBC, how does that encourage people to continue to pick up a book? All
right, so I try to help people pick up books by helping them learn about books the way I learned about them. Again, we have a wide variety of ways of sharing information about books. There's a regular newsletter that we send out. I share information about books that are on my bestsellers list. So, for example, and I'm also compiling lists of books. Some of the most popular lists of books that I've compiled, one of them was the most important books of the 20th century. And the books that I gave Doriel earlier came from that list. But my children's book list is really popular. That was a list that actually went viral on the internet some time ago. But I'm producing, you name the subject, there's a list for it. I just recently compiled a list of important Black aviator books. There's Black steampunk books. There's Black erotica. There's Black, you name the subject, and I'm going through the process of actually compiling some of the most important books in that. And I'm going really fine-tuned or even obscure niches. Okay, so let me ask a question about that. And please, if anybody is interested in dropping a question, dropping a comment, giving a review, anything, or even like, hey, have you heard of this book? Do you have it on your site? Or I'm sure you don't have this author on your site. This guy is so thorough. Go on the site and check yourself before you come and ask a question like that, right? But it's perfectly fine. There is no TMI. There's only FYI. Okay? That's how I roll. So what metric do you use, or what filter do you use to say, I think this is an important person? All right. So a lot of the information I obtain is from reading reviews in other publications. I know a lot of industry professionals, so talking with them, learning about the books that they're excited about. So, and then even books that I discover on my own. One book that I'm talking about lately is Barracoon. We visited the Zora Neale Hurston Museum earlier this afternoon in Eatonville. But she wrote a book this must have been in the 20s. It was never published. It tells a story about an individual who actually survived the Middle Passage, was enslaved, and ultimately freed. So she went down and interviewed him in Alabama, I want to say it was in, and compiled his story and wrote it up and told the story in his words, in the way he spoke. And that's one of the reasons why the book wasn't originally published, because the publisher wanted her to translate the way he spoke into proper English, and Zora Neale Hurston refused to do that. So the book was published this May, and but it's a fascinating story of someone. It's like a first-hand account of someone who was kidnapped in Africa, put on a boat in chains, dragged over here, enslaved for a number of years, and he was freed. So there's a community of people, descendants of people like, his name is Cudjo Lewis, or Kasala. And there's a community in near Mobile, Alabama, who are descendants of these formerly enslaved Africans. And one of them, I just learned on a story on NPR, is a man from the roots. Questlove is actually a descendant of one of these individuals.
So let me pause right there. So if anybody knows, so is this it, Barracoon?
That is it.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. So if anybody knows people from Mobile, Alabama, drop the name Barracoon, and I'm going to show you the picture. Let's see if you guys can see this. All right. So that's what it looks like. Barracoon. All right. Do you see that, folks? I want you to swipe your screen so that you can get this. Barracoon by Zora Neale Hurston. Now, of course, Zora Neale Hurston passed away a long time ago, but this was just released. So this is out. Okay? So you can go on AALBC.
AALBC.
So you can go on AALBC, right? And you can get the book. Please choose AALBC instead of...
No,
What?
All right.
When it comes to a book that was written by an author from the African diaspora, that means the continent, the Caribbean, and Black American authors, or even if they're Black and they're Asian, Black and European, wherever, but they got some melanin in them, please go to AALBC.com in order to purchase it, because then the author gets more.
Right, but even more importantly, one of the things that has really happened over the last decade on the web is sites like mine have disappeared. And they've disappeared, really because of a lack of patronage, a lack of... we need people to visit sites like mine. If I was to start ALBC today in 2018, I wouldn't have a chance. I mean, the only reason I'm even viable today is because the site has been on the web for 20 years. So that's a tremendous advantage in terms of search. So my site can become discovered. But new sites with smarter, people would struggle unless they had a ton of money to pay for advertising. It's hard to get discovered in today's environment. Much of what people do online is spending time on social media. So indie websites really have to compete against massive corporations for attention. So right now ALBC is viable, but if with more support, I can do so much more to promote authors, share information about terrific authors whose books are currently less discoverable because there are fewer platforms to promote them. All
right, so I'm going to pause right there. So are there any questions? Are there any questions about the information that he's presented so far? If not, I'm going to jump on and ask one more question for now, because this is not the first time, this is not going to be the last time, hopefully, right?
Yeah, send in questions, even if you don't do it live.
That Troy and I are going to be talking. So this is probably, though, hopefully not the only time that we're going to be talking live.
Okay.
I literally, one could say that, I tracked him down. Did I get on a plane to come and talk to him? Kind of, yeah. Did he drive for over an hour? Kind of, yeah. So, but because he lives on another part of the continent than I do, unless he comes to where I am, whatever, we'll be doing this, by a split screen. So I have one more question that we can kind of wrap up our conversation for tonight, unless anyone has any questions. And that is, there has been, and I thought there was a decline in the amount of people actually reading literature in groups, hence book clubs. So I'm sorry, one second. Thank you. If there are people out there who are interested in having a book club, or you already are participating in a book club, or somebody has asked you, hey, do you want to read a book together in a group? Then that's great. I thought with the onset of the internet and YouTube, because I consume a lot of content on social media, y'all know, because y'all always like, Dorel, you're always on social media. But so I do consume a lot of information on social media. I thought, oh, this person right here, amazing. You really, I think you actually may even know this person.
Hey, Sean.
So good. So this is Troy Johnson from AALBC, African American Literary Book Club. And I have him, yay, right here, talking to him. So I was really interested in how many people he thought were still consuming books in terms of paper. And so I knew that there were lots of book clubs that were going on, in the past where people actually got together. But now that people are so digital, I know I'm actually a part of the book club. I haven't picked up books yet. I'm sorry. But every month I get a notification. So we're reading this book from this author. I have yet to finish my book. I'm sorry. But because of the internet, we no longer are getting together to talk about the book. So we're not sitting in someone's living room. We're not going to a tea house. We're not going to a community center. We're not even going to the Zora Neale Hurston Museum. What we're doing is we're reading the book, either digital or in a book form, but then we will have a conversation in a chat room.
So, all right. So I think.
What do you think about that?
What I think. I think book clubs. So here, if you look at my website and you look at the percentage of.
Bridget.
So I sell books in any format that they can be sold in, I've noticed that ebook sales have essentially leveled off, and it's not just on my website. That seems to be a trend that's across the board. I think that everyone that's going to read ebooks is reading them now. There's no growth. Ebook growth has stagnated, and I think people are starting to discover the benefit of participating in.
Sorry,
no
that's
problem.
It. Okay, that's what you want to look for. AALBC.com, African American Literature Book. Oh, I said literature book club.
Yeah,
okay,
it's close enough. But really, people are beginning to rediscover the fact that being sitting with someone, sitting in a group of people discussing books is a very different thing than discussing them online. And this is I'm someone who's ran an online book club where we actually had virtual book club discussions, but that was done because most of the people who participated didn't have any other options. Many of the people who participated didn't live anywhere near a black-owned bookstore or a bookstore that sold black literature. So when I first started the website, one of the things that really struck me was that the number of people who reached out to me saying they had no idea that there were this many books written by black authors. And, that was surprising to me because I live in New York, but there are people who don't live in the major urban centers and have no clue, what books are available. They're not being covered on TV, in the newspapers, in magazines. So the web really is the only place where you can discover a wide variety of books, unless, of course, you subscribe to some industry publication. But even those don't cover all the black books that are available. And so when you talk about book clubs, I find that I'm discovering new book clubs all the time. On my website, on AOBC.com, you'll find a list of over 700 book clubs. One of the book clubs I work with, Go On Girl Book Club, has 30, 40, they may have about 50, they're always growing. They may have about 50 book clubs across the country. They have an annual awards ceremony. They give out scholarships. I'm a sponsor of the organization. And in fact, Go On Girl has taken the extra step of putting all the books on their reading list. When they list them on their website, they link to the ALBC store, and
Nice.
I sell those books directly. So the power of book clubs really can't be underestimated because they are a tremendous source of word of mouth. When they're passionate about a book, they generally tend to tell other people. Just the way I use my platform to spread the word about great books. I'm reading a really good book now by a brother named Dave Colvin, and he actually is one of the people that run the Sacramento Black Book Festival. He wrote a book called Raisins and Milk, and I've only read about 3 chapters of the book so far, but it's really compelling. One of the reviewers described it as a cross between the book Isabel Wilkerson's migration book. What's the title of that book?
I'll look it up though.
Any rate, it's just a really compelling story, and it's in the first 3 chapters there was a tragedy, and the meaning behind the title becomes evident, and it's and just the first few chapters is a really compelling story. But Dave Colvin is a brother that is really passionate about supporting black businesses. So in fact, I helped produce his book. So I run a number of services that help get books published. So Dave Colvin's book, I actually did the printing for it. So the books, books that I sell, yeah.
What do you mean you produced it?
I I helped in the production of the book. And since ALBC prints books, which is another business that I run with BCP Digital, we printed his book, and he's pleased with the results. I also reviewed the book, so it wasn't as a.
That's how I know him. He reviews books.
So, so one of my reviewers reviewed his book, gave it a rave review, and I actually, because of that review, I'm reading the book myself. So you'll find the book on the website. It's a terrific read so far. The reviewer was Dr. Brenda Green, who is the executive director of the Center for Black Literature at Medgar Evers College. Gave it a rave review. Brooklyn's in the house. But
okay.
Yeah, so Dr. Green gave it a really good review, and the book I'm finding personally. So again, it was a book that I discovered through my own website. So I'm my best customer. And if you're looking for a good book, you'll definitely find it on the website.
Okay, so I'm going to pause here because there's so many, every time you guys see me look down, I'm actually writing a question. So what I jotted down is cover books by African American authors in my head. Hey, Team Larrier, and review books. So once again, so this is Troy Johnson of, show your shirt, of AALBC, the African American Literature Book Club. And he started this website 20 years ago. And he will review books. He publishes books. He will do the editing for books. And I didn't know that until today. And he will host, and in my head, he becomes the hub. He becomes the hub. And then all of the books that are written by authors of African ancestry, again, the continent of Africa, the Caribbean, the States, any continent in and around, wherever, as long as the person is of African ancestry, and a couple of exceptions.
A few exceptions, sure.
That got in. Okay. He will host them on their site. So, once again, if you want to purchase a book, if you want a review of a book by a person of color, a person of that same ancestral background, with a neutral eye.
No, they're critical reviews. So
so critical reviews. So as you said, because sometimes people can, this is a whole other conversation, but sometimes people can review a book, and because of their background, because of their lens, how that book gets reviewed is kind of skewed one way or the other, right?
Yes. So so I select a review with all of that in mind.
Okay.
So I'm not, if the book is about erotica, I'm not going to get someone who's extremely religious and has certain moral views that might bias their, right. So All right, so no, I make sure that I'm not going to assign a book on a very technical subject to someone who only reviews novels. So we try to I try to match the reviewer with the title. And I mean, in the ideal world, every book reviews are subjective, and aside from the technical aspects of a book, how does it look? Is it properly designed? Are there syntax and spelling errors? Ignoring those for a second, the story is what's most important. And so I try to marry the reviewer with the right book. And so that's also part of the service as well, is making sure that the right review is assigned.
Okay. So now to wrap this up, and I really hope that the people who have popped on have shared this. Hey there, North Carolina. I hope that the people who are popping on, please share this video. So once again, this is Troy Johnson of the African American Literature Book Club. He started in New York, but then he left.
Yeah, I left.
He came to the other end of the North Atlantic. Hey, there she goes. Look.
Oh, my girl.
Hey, what's up? Hey. So this is Troy Johnson of AALBC. I want you all to share this. I'm waving at you. Hey, cuz. So we have just been talking about who tells our story. So this is the Power of Story series, and I grabbed Troy for a couple of hours and said, hey, I really need to talk to you. So we've really just been talking about a host of things pertaining to literature, the internet and its impact, publishing, reviews of books, how we're curating books, who's in the AALBC network. Network meaning the site, where you can find the site, where to purchase books written by African and African American authors.
Yep. All right. They got it.
I hope so. I hope you guys got it. So once again, this is just the beginning. So I'm definitely going to be chatting with Troy again. But because of our distance, we're most likely going to be talking digitally. So what I need for you all to do, drop any questions. If it's about book clubs, if it's about self-publishing. Because like lots of people I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I have to do self-publishing. I don't know who to get. I need my book edited. I need my book published. Right here. I met him at the Harlem Book Fair about 16, 17, something like that, years ago. I was like, wow, he's really smart.
Oh.
And then here it is, 16 years later, yeah. He's sitting next to me and I'm chatting with him about books and things. So we actually took a tour earlier today. We were at the Zora Neale Hurston Museum, right? It's really, really special. It was really special. We need for people, if you're in Florida, you're going to come to Florida, you're going to be in the Orlando, Kissimmee, Eatonville area. Eatonville, EATONVILLE. You can show them that picture.
Oh
my goodness.
Can you see that?
Wait, put it up there.
Oh, okay, there you go.
So, see that it says
Zora's Place.
It says Zora's Place, right? So I was actually live streaming. The picture is me live streaming. He's taking a picture of me live streaming. Anyway, so we had a really, really, really we had a good time, but it was honestly it was a little bittersweet.
How so?
Because this is 2018, and Zora Neale Hurston, honestly, should have a place that represents the quality of the stories that she wrote. And if you all have followed me for a while, you remember I talked about the curators who were hired by the Brooklyn Museum and how those new curators in 2018 did not reflect the exhibit, the African exhibit that was being entered into the museum.
Okay.
So that was one of my first rants about this. And so if we are going to curate our own story, So even right now, I'm going through hosts of pictures from like 30, 40, 50 years, and I'm trying to decide what's important. I'm trying to decide what should I keep and what I should toss. Now, of course, if the picture you couldn't figure it out, you don't know, like, who is this person? I don't remember. Toss. We can't figure that out. If it was fuzzy or like half a fake, throw that out. But if it had some meaning, what's the story behind that picture? Let's tell that story. And that's what curation is about, choosing what is important. So, as we wrap this initial conversation up, keep in mind that the power of story. If you have elders who are around you, push the live button, turn on your recording device, and let them talk. Ask them questions about food, about clothing, about lifestyle, about where they lived, about how they lived, how they raised children, where they went to church, how they dealt with politics, how they spent money, how they saved money, how they recycled, like how they did stuff. Because they're not going to be here very long. And you want those stories to go on. That's number one. Number two, make sure that you tell your own story. Where Troy comes in, make sure the books that you have in your library, first make sure you have a library. Please. Because should the internet go down, you got to read something. Get you a book. As my grandmother would say, go get you a book and sit down somewhere, okay? And read that book. But for real, treasure the stories that you tell about yourself and that the stories of other people, and share those stories, because we are all that we have, and you want to keep our story going on, and you want to keep your own story being told by people who can treasure your story. Don't let somebody else tell your story, because there's power in your own story. So once again, I am talking to Troy Johnson of the African American Literature Book Club. If you want to have your own book club, if you're thinking of hosting a book club, if you want to purchase your own a book of from an African American author, give a book to children for their birthday. It will not hurt them. Trust me. Next time you have a baby shower, give a book. Going to a wedding, give a book. Going to a birthday party, give a book. It's very important. And buy it from AALBC.
All right.
Thank you very much. You want to say goodbye?
Goodbye, everyone. See you all soon.
See you all later. Have a great day.